Hi everyone, it's great to be back at the Soil Health Institute. I have been here every single year since the Institute started, and it is wonderful to be back again, and wonderful to continue to get to learn from Tim and Wayne and all the great work that you all are doing. As Tim mentioned, I'm going to focus in on the federal side of things, so what is happening for soil health, specifically when it comes to the 2018 Farm Bill that was just signed into law last year. And this will be a high-level, big picture, where are we at? So to get us started, just a brief intro to who the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition is. We are an alliance of grassroots organizations working to advance the sustainability of agriculture, food systems, natural resources, and rural communities. We have more than 130 member groups all around the country, and we work through them, with them, to advance federal policy. The way that we do our work puts the farmers, the folks on the ground, front and center in terms of shaping that policy. We get feedback from the farmers and stakeholders working with our members to understand what's working, what's not working when it comes to federal programs and policies on the ground. Our members give us that feedback in DC. We work to set those priorities for federal food and farm policy based on that on-the-ground feedback. And then we translate that into policy action, advocating to Congress and USDA in DC. So, some big picture Farm Bill. As we all know, the 2018 Farm Bill was passed and signed into law on December 20th, 2018. Farm bills are generally reauthorized every 5-ish years. The 2018 Farm Bill, or the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, followed many months, many years of working to reauthorize the 2014 Farm Bill, which expired on September 30th, 2018. So we had a couple of months of trying to figure out, are we going to negotiate the differences between the House and Senate bills? I definitely had my moments of doubt. I think many others did as well. But Congress was able to get a deal and pass that final bill in both chambers with strong bipartisan support. Just to paint a picture of the money that we are talking about when it comes to the 2018 Farm Bill and how that relates to soil health, this big picture is the full pie of Farm Bill funding. Farm bills are authorizing these programs for 5 years, but when we talk about the funding, we actually talk in 10-year windows. The section of this pie that we will be most talking about is the conservation title, so that is the green slice of the pie. It's about $60 billion of the total $847 billion, nearly $1 trillion. But of course, when we talk about soil health, it's not just conservation. We'll be talking about research, crop insurance, miscellaneous title, and more. It is spread throughout the Farm Bill. So again, I invite you to join us tomorrow to get into the weeds of the specific reforms that we're excited about in the 2018 Farm Bill when it comes to soil health. But I just want to talk about the types of programs and reforms that we saw in this most recent Farm Bill. To start with, we saw several structural reforms to existing conservation programs. So this may mean giving a higher priority in these programs to soil health, looking at how the ranking and evaluation processes are working. We also, as Tim was saying, a big part of supporting soil health is through incentives to farmers. So we saw several instances of increasing those incentives, those payment rates, for key activities that we know benefit soil health. We also saw several instances of really targeting the most sensitive acres and protecting land and soil through certain reforms. We also saw a lot of important reforms when it comes to access to conservation support. The first step in allowing farmers to be able to get the support they need, whether financial or technical assistance, is making sure they can actually access that support. That's especially important when we're talking about beginning socially disadvantaged farmers. And we saw several reforms in the Farm Bill that hopefully will make that easier for folks to access that support. We also saw a strong interest on the data and metrics side of things, which is, of course, very important to the work that the Institute is doing. Several instances in the Farm Bill to move us closer to being able to collect and have that data that we need to understand soil health impacts, benefits, and ways that we can further improve on those outcomes. Additionally, the crop insurance title, as we all know, soil health efforts are a really important risk mitigation strategy. Unfortunately, we have often seen some divides between soil health practices and the federal crop insurance program. So we saw really important strides forward to better link those two areas, crop insurance and soil health and conservation. Finally, we saw several instances of inserting a stronger soil health priority into our existing research programs, increased funding for organic research. So a lot of opportunity there as well to get the data that we need to better further improve soil health benefits. So again, I just want to point to a couple of the specifics. We will talk more tomorrow, but big picture-wise, we didn't see any cuts to the overall conservation title. We know that these programs and this assistance for farmers continues to demand outstrips available funding, so we were able to protect that total pot for conservation in the Farm Bill. We also were able to get some higher incentive payments for activities like cover crops, advanced grazing, resource-conserving crop rotations, to hopefully really further incentivize the adoption of these activities. We also saw a new soil health demonstration project created within the Conservation Innovation Grant Program, or SIG. This is exciting, a way to bring farmers to the table in demonstrating these soil health benefits through key practices, collect that data, understand, okay, how can we take these learnings and further our efforts moving forward. We saw some important improvements through the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, so bringing partners to the table and working together to address key resource concerns, including soil health, providing additional flexibility, and again, within RCBP, further inserting this emphasis on data and outcomes. Again, the linkage between crop insurance and conservation, we were able to get rid of several barriers related to cover crop adoption and soil health and crop insurance. We're still working to move that forward, but really important steps forward to reduce those barriers. And as I mentioned, the research investments were significant as well. So we have a Farm Bill passed, signed into law. We made it through the government shutdown, which happened right after the Farm Bill was signed into law. And so now we're done. Is that how it works? We don't have to do anything else until 2023? No, that is not the case. We have a lot of work to do before 2023 when we start working on the next Farm Bill. We are in Farm Bill implementation, which is really critical to actually capture the wins that we were able to secure through the 2018 Farm Bill. So what does implementation look like? We hear that word thrown around a lot around the Farm Bill. What does it actually mean? It means a number of different things. First, it means direct feedback to the agency, to USDA, to NRCS. They are in the process of further fleshing out the details through the rulemaking process, and they need further direction from us. So there's an opportunity for public comment through the rulemaking process, letters, questions, working with farmers. The work is not done to capture the wins that we were able to get through the Farm Bill. Next, Congress's job is also not done. They did get the Farm Bill passed. That is great. But they still play a really important role in oversight. So that means holding hearings to examine how is implementation going, sending letters, asking questions, really ensuring that we are able to get those benefits that they work to achieve. Next, program outreach and use. These programs, these wins are not going to implement themselves. Farmers are not going to magically learn about them just by being out there. So there's a lot of work for us to do to help do outreach, education, promotion, ensuring that the folks who can benefit from these changes are aware that the changes exist and they are available to them. Additionally, evaluation is an ongoing process throughout implementation. We got a lot of wins, we made a lot of improvements, but we can always do more. And the way that we can understand what that more is by understanding what's working, what's not working, what changes can we further make, either administratively or as we start to look towards that next Farm Bill, so an ongoing process. And finally, appropriations. We got a lot of funding. We made a lot of important program revisions through the Farm Bill, but there's more. The annual appropriations process sets funding levels for some key programs that support soil health. There's the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, SARE, that gets all of its funding through the annual appropriations process. Conservation technical assistance, the funding to actually implement these programs in the field, also through the appropriations process. So a lot more work to be done each and every year, even when we are mid-Farm Bill cycle. So, as I mentioned, the upcoming rulemaking process, this is when we figure out the details of, okay, what did that statutory authority in the Farm Bill really mean? How does it play out in the field? Congress bought USDA some time by allowing them to use the old rules from the last Farm Bill for fiscal year 2019. So that meant they could mostly carry on as usual for program implementation in FY 2019, made some changes here and there, but largely the major changes, those major structural reforms, are going to come through the rulemaking process. We expect to start seeing those rules as early as next month, all the way through November. These will be interim final rules, so that means they will go into effect immediately for fiscal year 2020, but there will be an opportunity for public comment to provide feedback, to say, okay, this is really what we want to see, this was the intent. So that's a really big opportunity for the public to be weighing in on these rules. And again, we'll talk more tomorrow in terms of what that looks like. And finally, just as we think back on what's going on in DC now, even now we have a Farm Bill, we're in implementation, Congress is still really interested and excited about soil health. They are excited in terms of implementation, but they are also excited to think about what is next, what more do we need to do at the federal level to further invest in farmers and ranchers who are at the front lines and kind of leading this work when it comes to soil health. So just a couple of examples of how we've seen that play out, even in the past couple of months. In the top left corner, we have Congresswoman Axne of Iowa. She is standing with a farmer from Iowa who testified at a hearing that the House Agriculture Conservation Subcommittee held specifically on soil health. She's holding up a Don't Farm Naked shirt from Practical Farmers of Iowa. Below that is the chairman of that subcommittee, Chairwoman Spanberger. She is holding up, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but the SARE bulletin on the economics of cover crops. That was something that she submitted for the record to talk about the economic benefits of soil health of cover crops. Then in the top right, we have, moving over to the Senate side, we've got Chairman Roberts and Ranking Member Stabenow. They held a hearing specifically on climate change and agriculture, so hearing from farmers and ranchers in terms of what are they doing, how can they be part of the solution. And then finally, in the bottom corner, we have Chairman Bishop of the House Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee. They held a hearing on economic opportunities through sustainable practices. So again, focusing in on what are farmers doing, what does it mean in terms of the economics, and approaching that from the appropriation side of things. So takeaway is a lot of interest from Congress across committees, across the aisle. This is a bipartisan issue that folks are excited about. They want to be able to figure out how can we advance further policies to get these win-win solutions for soil health, for profitability. And so it's exciting to see that even as we're coming out of this Farm Bill, there's a lot more work to be done and a lot of interest in DC. So with that, here's some information to stay in touch with NSAC. We have a lot of resources out, including a grassroots guide to the Farm Bill. So this is a detailed online publication to talk about program by program, what happened in the Farm Bill, what does it mean. We will continue to update this as the process moves forward. And with that, thank you for your time. Again, invite you to come join us tomorrow to talk more through the details. Questions?